Blog Talk Radio.
Paranormal Review Radio.
Welcome, everyone. It is Friday night, and you're listening to Paranormal Review Radio, the only radio show without commercials and with more great paranormal talk. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Anthony Agati in New York.
And I'm Lucy Liedfried in Chicago. Are you ready for another Paranormal Friday night? We are so happy that you can join us. We welcome all of our regular listeners and those of you who have tuned in for the very first time. Now, if you'd like a reading tonight, call into the show at 661-244-9831. The phone lines will be filling fast, so call in now. Now, don't forget you can always send us an email with future topics that you'd like to see on the show, or if you just want to say hi. Our email address is paranormalreviewradio@yahoo.com. And last but not least, check us out on our Facebook show page and our YouTube channel for more information on the paranormal and upcoming shows.
Well, you know, we've hit our halfway mark in celebrating psychic advisors and healers this month, and tonight we're getting into the numbers. The principal belief of numerology is that everything in existence is comprised of energy vibrating at different frequencies. Numerologists believe that numbers represent these varying frequencies and that their divine significance in the days of the calendar, dates of birth, and letters of the alphabet. It is believed that the numbers and letters associated with a person's date of birth and name reflect vibrational frequencies associated with their specific personality and soul purpose. Tonight, we're going to tap into these frequencies and learn the basics of numerology and how your birth date and your name can reveal who you really are and maybe what you can do to change your path. We have a great guest on the show tonight. Michael John Fierro has been studying and working with numerology since 1984. His greatest passion in life is in introducing the subject to the masses. His work with clients over the years has one specific goal in mind: assisting personal empowerment through understanding, acceptance, and responsibility. He is committed to using numerology and exposing others to this ancient science. Michael strongly believes that this modality can be instrumental in an individual's understanding and self-awareness of themselves as well as those who surround them. Michael has lectured extensively around the country and has also appeared on a great many radio programs, and tonight including ours. He is recognized for his engaging and informative presentation of the topic, whether introducing it to new audiences or to audiences that have familiarity with numerology. In both his lectures and in the great many private sessions he has given through the years, he consistently displays an uncanny ability for extremely accurate readings of people. He is dedicated to mainstreaming numerology and assisting people to obtain a higher level of understanding and empowerment. Michael recently relaunched his book on numerology, You Know Your Name, Look Up Your Numbers, which is an introduction to numerology. I know everyone is excited for tonight's show, so let's get started. Please help me in welcoming Michael John Fierro. Hello, Michael. How are you tonight?
Very well, Anthony. And yourself?
Great, great. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Hi, Michael. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lucy.
You know what? Hi. You know what? Numerology is just absolutely so fascinating. So I'd like to start this off by asking you, how did you find the path to this art?
Actually, my sister introduced me to it back in 1984. We had a get-together. I was living in Florida at the time. I came up to New Jersey. We had a surprise birthday party for my mother. And after dinner, we went over to my brother's place, and all the siblings were there. And my younger sister started to do this numerology stuff. And I had never heard of numerology, and here I am 30 years later, and I'm still astounded that a majority of people that I speak to have no idea what it is. But at any event, she did this reading for me that was just absolutely incredibly accurate. And before anyone says, well, she's your sister, of course it would be accurate. I'm 5 years older than my sister, so I was out of the house before she was in high school. We really didn't know one another or have a relationship. And it really piqued my curiosity that it was so accurate, and the fact that it was numbers-based intrigued me because I've always been good at math. I have a real good head for numbers, so again, the fact that it was a number-based modality really kind of opened my eyes, and that's where I started. So I dabbled with it for a few years, and I was living in Connecticut in the early 90s, and I began to pursue it much more intently, and I've just kept up the work now ever since.
Wow. Well, you know what? I want to take this time to remind our listeners that Michael will be giving some numerology readings to a few of our callers tonight. So call us. The number is 661-244-9831. Press the 1 so that we know that you want to get online, that you want to get on air. And we'll be doing the readings in a few minutes, so make sure you call in now. Michael, just how does this work? How can the numbers in our birth date give us so much information? And are there specific areas that you look for in our birth date and in our names?
Well, the reason it works is because numbers are one of the constants in the universe. Everything that you can see, feel, hear, touch, whatever, can be reduced to a numerical equation. The system that I use, which is the Pythagorean system, obviously Pythagoras was the father of that, and he recognized, centuries ago, thousands of years ago, not centuries, because it dates back at least 2,500 years ago. But he recognized that this synchronicity surrounding numbers. And what he said at that time was that the human soul is at music when engaged in pure mathematics. All things accord in numbers. And that's very true. Again, as I say, everything that you come in contact with can be reduced to a mathematical equation. When they put a man on the moon, they didn't give him a map. It was a mathematical equation. When they attempt to contact extraterrestrial life, they send out mathematical equations because there is that constancy. So because it is one of the constants, that's the basis for it. And numerology is based on the alphabet as we know it, and basically the numbers 1 through 9. So depending on the spelling of your name, which is very important, it needs to be the spelling of your name the way it is on your birth certificate. I don't look at other names other than the birth certificate number because it's my belief that before you got here, your soul knew who it needed to be, and it chose your name and your birth date for you because it knew that within the context of all of that is everything about you, your talents, your personality, your characteristics, your strong points, your weak points, your lessons, your challenges. So all of that is built into your name. So as much as people may like to think that their parents named them or it was some random happening, in essence, you participated in naming yourself.
Well, you just mentioned basically, numbers are everywhere. It's a constant in the universe, and it truly does seem to be everywhere in our daily lives. And, sometimes it's in our dreams. Many people tend to see that same number everywhere that they look, or at least are more conscious of them all around them. And since numbers are said to have vibrational energies, are these numbers that we see all the time meant to tell us something, or do you think it's just merely coincidence?
Well, that's probably the most frequently asked question that I receive. And because I always get the question about, I keep seeing, every time I look at the clock, it's 1:11 or it's 2:22 or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Now, obviously those numbers would have some numerological significance, but my thought on that is more closely aligned with the Doreen Virtue school of thought, which when you consistently see that same number, that's kind of your angelic group. and they're letting you know that they're nearby and ready to assist you if you need it. But again, any number obviously does have some numerological significance just because of the fact it's the number. So.
Okay, and, you know, we obviously can't change our birth dates, but many people have changed, you know, their names. And for instance, you know, my name is Anthony. My true birth date name is Anthony, but a lot of people call me Tony, and I respond to Tony. And Anthony is on my birth certificate. Does this have any effect on our destiny or our life path? Are we, in essence, if we do change our name, are we, in essence, forcing a change or creating possibly chaos?
Both. When you change your name, you change your vibration. And I'm a huge advocate of people using their birth name. And especially women. Women are obviously the gender that gets to change their name when they get married.
Right.
But when you change your name, you change your vibration. And the best analogy I can use for a name change is to think of Halloween. On Halloween, you put on a costume. Maybe you dress up as Batman or Superman or whomever. And externally, people see Batman or Superman. But underneath that costume is Anthony.
Right.
And Anthony never goes away. No matter how many costumes you wear, no matter how many times you put on a different costume, Anthony never, ever goes away. And so when you change your name and you take on, in essence, a different identity, what you create is something that's known as intrapersonal stress. And what that means is that the vibrations of the two names can very well work against one another. And I'll use this as an example. In numerology, 5 is a representation of travel, change, transition, movement, activity, curiosity. It's a very flexible number. It's a very, very mentally and physically curious number. It likes life is an adventure, and a 5 looks to participate in as much of that adventure as possible. Now, if that 5 energy changed their name and changed their name to where now the energy is a 4. Well, 4 in numerology is about organization and discipline and structure and foundation. It's a very restrictive number. If you think of the geometric shape for 4, it's a square. So now what you have taken is this free-spirited, adventurous individual and put him into a box. And what you end up with now is this conflict about the real self wanting to, run naked in the field. And the 4 energy saying, well, wait a second, before we do that, we better go walk the field to make sure that there's no obstacles or anything that can harm us. And we need to have some boundaries and some rules and regulations about that, which is totally counter to the energy of the 5. So that in that instance, that's where you can see where the conflict is. And the way to determine that conflict is you subtract the one number from the other. So subtracting 4 from 5, you get 1. So the point of issue, the point of stress, it has to do with your individual identity.
Would you be able, or would anyone be able then to maybe consult with a numerologist if they were ever thinking about changing their name that would be more positive, I guess, or beneficial if they were to change their name? Here are their options to go forth that won't disrupt their life path as much as if they were to just create another name on their own.
Yes, they certainly could. But again, in my work, I am just strongly advocate against name changes. There is a reason you are named what you are.
Right.
And again, it's because your soul knew who you needed to be. And now, again, I use myself as an example here. Before I was born, back in the day where the doctor couldn't tell you whether it was going to be a boy or a girl, my parents told everyone that if I was a boy, my name was going to be James Allen Fierro. And my name was James Allen Fierro until the moment the nurse walked into the room and asked my mother, what's the baby's name? And she answered Michael John. Now, most people probably know at least one individual in their life who was pregnant and who said that when the baby's born, its name is going to be Mary Elizabeth. and the baby was born, and suddenly the baby's name is Linda Sue. Because the soul makes that connection, and the soul will assert itself. My belief is that your soul channels your name through your parents, again, because it knows who it needs to be. So whether or not you like your name or not, you need to get used to it, and you need to become comfortable with it. Now, if you are in a position in your life where you are grounded in yourself, and you are truly comfortable in yourself, if you want to change your name, okay, because at least you have a strong foundation. But many people, especially, again, women have a tendency, and again, they're the gender that changes their name, and a lot of women get married at a young age. So if you're getting married at 22, 23, 24 years old, you haven't even begun to grow up yet. Right. You really don't begin to grow up and have that major change in life until you hit, in astrology, the first Saturn return, and in numerology, the end of the first cycle as designated by the month of birth. So here you are, a not fully formed individual, and all of a sudden you've taken on a different vibration. And it's going to create some problems. Because sooner or later you're going to realize, geez, I just don't feel as myself. I don't connect to myself here. And you see it with women who've been married a long time and are suddenly divorced, and now all of a sudden they're back to being themselves. But there's a great deal of confusion about themselves because they've been pretending to be someone else for so long. So my advice to all women is if you're going to get married, keep your maiden name. And if you're going to get a divorce, be sure that getting your maiden name back is part of the divorce proceedings.
Interesting.
Wow.
You know,
okay, I must have some problems.
Yeah, I have a great quote from Erica Jean, and this is very true. When we take away the right to an individual name, we symbolically take away the right to be an individual. Immigration officials did this to refugees. Husbands routinely do it to wives. So when you take someone else's name, what you are doing is giving up. You are trading your identity for the identity of someone else. And the other part there that creates some problems is your last name is the karma of your family of origin. And when you came into that environment, on some level, you were equipped to participate and handle that karma. Now, you marry me, you suddenly have my last name. You have no idea what the karma of my family is, and you have no idea how to handle it. And now you're dealing with not only handling mine, but underneath you're still attempting to handle your own.
I never realized that it went so deep like that. That's amazing.
Yeah, so I've got, close to 30 years worth of working with clients, and my experience, I have a lot of empirical evidence here of clients that I have worked with, and especially women who they go through great difficulty in their life because, again, they sacrificed who they are for the sake of being someone else that, they chose to because they chose to get married, but, again, not knowing what you're getting into.
Right.
So, to me, I'm a person who uses proper names. My name is Michael. Quite honestly, I get a little offended when people call me Mike because I have never introduced myself as Mike. I'm Michael. And I think that everyone needs to respect the individual and use the name that which they use to introduce themselves and not arbitrarily shorten it because, I don't know, you have a malady where you can only pronounce first syllables. I don't know quite what that is.
Right.
There's and you need to respect yourself in using your name and honor yourself in using your name and get to really understand and know yourself. And one of my work is very deep in the sense that I really work diligently to connect you with who you are, to give you great understanding of who you are. As you said in the introduction, personal empowerment through understanding, acceptance, and responsibility. What does that mean? Understand who you are accept who you are, and take responsibility for yourself. In my work, I put a lot of emphasis on the challenges, which are a number that come out of the birth date. And the challenges are the issues in life. They're the obstacles to wholeness. And there's these are things that need to be learned. So if you understand what your challenges are and then accept them and take responsibility for them, it takes a negative and turns it into a positive. And the other thing with the challenges is I can identify with the challenges situations such as an individual who comes out of a home that was very disciplined or very authoritarian, or perhaps there's a great deal of control issues, or perhaps sexual abuse or other types of abuse, or addictions or anger. Now, if I can identify that in your chart, then that means that on some level you asked for that to be there. So as tragic and upsetting as abuse may be, if you can understand that you asked for it to be there because there was something you needed to learn, and then you can move on to accepting that fact, then you can take responsibility. And instead of blaming mommy and daddy for your miserable life, you can take responsibility for your life and move yourself out of being a victim into a position of empowerment.
Okay. Well, I find it really interesting that you mentioned, like about the name change and that. And honestly, if you look at my name, it's nowhere near what it is on my birth certificate. I mean, my given name on my birth certificate is Lucia, but at an early age, I dropped the A. And it was simply because people never pronounced it correctly. It was always Lucia or Lucille, and I dropped it. And then again, too, I did get married at an early age. I changed my last name, but when I got divorced, I never took my maiden name back. So in essence, have I been putting up roadblocks because I never went back because I'm not using the name on my birth certificate?
Quite conceivably, yes, because what you're not doing is using your own strengths, your own identity. You are using the identity. It's the equivalent of an identity theft. In essence, you are using someone else's name to be who you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lucy, pretty much you've been wearing a Halloween costume for a very long time.
Pretty much. Well, but I understand the part with the using my married name still. And in essence, the main reason why I kept it was really totally out of respect for my son. All during college and high school, he played football, and to me, it just made more sense to be to have the same last name as opposed to having a different name. But it's the first name that I'm interested in. I mean, like I said, I made the decision early on, instead of using the name Lucia, I just dropped the A and it became Lucy.
Okay, well then what you did though was change your identity. Okay. And you removed, by removing the A in numerology resonates to the number 1. Okay? The number 1 in numerology has a great deal to do with self-identity. It's also a number that represents ideas and initiative and moving forward in leadership and stuff. Now, the average spelling of the average name will include 3 to 4 ones. That's the average. You removed a 1 from your name. I don't know how many of the letters A, J, and S you have in your entire maiden name, but if you drop that number below 3, then what it created was a situation where perhaps your self-identity wasn't as strong as it could be or should be.
Well, my maiden name is Bonilla. It's Bonilla.
And what's your middle name?
There was, I don't have one.
Okay, so you dropped then from 1A, from 2 A's to 1A. So again, a person with 1A, if I have a client who only has one in the spelling of their name, the first thing I'll say to them, that is one of the things they really need to work on is strengthening their sense of self, strengthening their self-identity, because people with a little bit of 1 energy although they tend to be very easygoing, they can also somewhat be taken advantage of by others because they somewhat lack that strength to stand up for themselves.
That's interesting. That's interesting because, Anthony, you do tell me that I am too nice sometimes, and people do have a tendency to take advantage.
Yep.
So, but let's move on. I have another question. Now, I did hear you mention in an interview that using numerology on young kids and learning what their life path can be can help them avoid the conflicts or mistakes that they may make in the future. Now, do you believe that this would be beneficial, or should there be a balance of numerology and free will when it comes to our kids?
And when you know numerology, you have free will. Okay, every number has a positive and negative aspect. Every number has a list of positive and negative aspects. Okay? The more human you are, quote unquote, the more likely you are to resonate to the negative side of that equation. The more spiritually inclined you are, the more inclined you would be to be on the positive side of that ledger. Most people are a combination of the two. When I advocate, and believe me, I've been advocating this for years, one of these days someone's going to listen to me. I have been advocating for the use of numerology in the education system for the very reason that it would help identify little Johnny when he enters the school system. It would identify perhaps where you might have to focus a little more attention in his education, and areas where you could kind of let him go because he would innately know it. He would take to things quite naturally if he had that vibration. And the other thing, which is even more important, which I would just refer to, was the challenges. Now, if little Johnny enters the system and you see that his first challenge is a 7, there is an extremely high probability that he comes out of a home where addictive behavior is an issue. And anyone who knows someone who is a child of an alcoholic realizes that that child will not really begin to act up and act out until they hit their teens. So what a luxury it would be if it was identified in little Johnny when he went into kindergarten, and then part of his education growing up would be to teach him the skills necessary to overcome that codependent behavior that will invariably show up, and perhaps that acting up that will invariably show up. And then what you have is a child, instead of having a child who becomes a problem child, you have this beautiful plant that continually watered and nurtured in the right fashion will blossom into this wonderful thing.
Well, okay. So this leads me to my next question, and this may be a loaded question, and you kind of touched on it a little. But do you feel that parents can manipulate their child's destiny and their path by helping to choose a name that will help work better with their numerology? Or is it just a case of universal intervention where they think they're picking a specific name, but in actuality, the universe has already implanted that name in their minds and led them to believe that they've chosen the name on their own?
Yes, although I would amend that statement to say that the soul of the individual channeled that name through. Now, I guess the soul is a part of the universe, so yes, I guess in a way the universe did. But yeah, it's my belief that you, that inner core of you, that soul, that spirit of you, named yourself. And again, there are parents that when they get pregnant, the day they get pregnant, they know the name of the baby, and it never wavers and it never changes. When the baby is born with that name. And then there's the instance, such as I shared about myself, where I was going to be James Allen until the moment the nurse came in and asked my mother what was the baby's name. And my mother told me unequivocally that she had absolutely no intention of naming me Michael John. Michael John was my father's name. And they had no intention at all of naming me after my father. And they did anyway.
Well, and that's interesting.
And in looking at my chart, I certainly identify, and it's quite apparent that I am who my name is. My approach to things, the way I think about things, the way I perceive things, it's all delineated in my chart.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you, because from what I've heard from you, in that your personality is very, very strong, and it's very defined, and so you attribute that to the fact that your name has a lot to do with that. Exactly,
without a doubt. Believe me, I am my name. Now, obviously, people who first meet me get one impression of me. People who know me and know me intimately see the other side of myself that I may not necessarily share, because my major name number is a 7, and 7s by nature tend to be a little aloof, a little reticent about putting themselves out there until they get comfortable. But yes, I have a great deal of strength of character and personality, and again, when I do work with numerology and I demonstrate what I can do, I've had numerous people insist that I was psychic. And I believe we're all a little psychic, but I don't attribute my skill in numerology to any psychic ability. When I write someone's name down on a piece of paper and do their chart, I see them very, very deeply. I am pleased to say, and this isn't coming from a place of ego, but in all the years I've been working with thousands and thousands of clients, my accuracy rate is in the high 90 percentile.
That's
and
amazing.
It's based solely on name and birth date. And a quick side note, when I say I do a chart based upon your name, the way it is spelled on your birth certificate, if you were one of those individuals whom, when you were born, no one quite knew what to name you, and your birth certificate says Baby Girl Johnson, Baby Girl Johnson is what I read. And you would be amazed at how accurately Baby Girl Johnson identifies that individual, no matter what her name ended up being.
Wow.
And I can share another story. I have a person I knew I went through school with, and her name was Mary Ellen. But she shared with me a story that when she was born, her parents named her Marilyn. And then Grandma showed up at the hospital and started ranting and raving, "What are you doing? You can't name the baby Marilyn. The baby's name has to be Mary Ellen." So literally on her birth certificate, they crossed out Marilyn and wrote in Mary Ellen. Well, I did charts on both of those configurations of names. And not that this woman was schizophrenic, but I could tell when she was being Marilyn, and I could tell when she was being Mary Ellen, because she had two very distinctive approaches to things, depending on the mood she was in.
So did she basically have two life paths then?
No, life path is your birth date. She just had two portions of her, two divisions of her personality. Again, not schizophrenia, but there was a part of her that was very strong and direct, and then there was this other part that was kind of laid back, whatnot. And again, I could tell when she was being that. And a perfect example of the difference your name makes is take a set of twins.
Right.
Okay? If twins are born within minutes of one another, chances are very good that their astrological chart is exactly the same. Have you ever met a set of twins that are exactly the same?
No.
No. And what's the difference? Their name.
Their names, yeah.
So I use that also as a way to kind of, give credence to my belief and my theory there that your name does make that difference in how you behave. And again, changing that name will change the way you behave.
Okay. So our names pretty much, correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm getting here is that our names will have more to do with who we are, and our birth dates will have more to do with our paths. Is that correct?
Exactly. The way I describe it is this, that your birth date is the road in life you are traveling. And numerologically, your birth date is the field of experience or the environment in which you get to exercise who you are. So if your birth date is the road in life you are traveling, your name is the car you are driving. You can never get off the road because you can't change your birth date, but you can change your car because you can change your name. But again, I only look at the car you drove in.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, you know what? It looks like we have some callers on the line, and we would love to get to some of them. So are you okay to start with some readings, Michael?
Yeah, sure. Again, I just need their first name so I can address them and their birth date. That's all I need.
Okay. Okay. And, we'll continue with more questions in between the callers, and we'll learn some more insight to your gifts. So let's go to the phone lines, and we have area code 614. Hi, you're on the air with Michael, Anthony, and Lucy. Who's on the line?
My name is Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Lorraine. Hi.
All right.
And my birth date is 5/23/68.
What was the day?
23.
23. And what was the year again, hon?
1968.
68?
Yes.
Okay, you have a 16-7 life path. Now, 7 in numerology is the seeker. 7s are very intellectually and spiritually curious. They tend to be skeptical in nature, and they don't take anything for face value. So I imagine that your favorite question is why. You need to understand things. You need things explained to you. And if the explanation is not adequate, you will ask another question. Now, 7s are real good in things in the realm of mathematics and science. They're a natural researcher. They're natural analysts. But there's this real driving force, this great curiosity to understand life. You 7s, what kind of work do you do?
I just graduated college, and my hobby is I'm a paranormal investigator.
Okay, so 7s are investigators. Again, 7s are curious. They're, again, intellectually and spiritually curious. So you are on this constant quest to gather information and knowledge and to learn about things. Now, one of the things that it's important for a 7 to do is what you learn, it's incumbent upon you that you turn around and share with others and teach others that which you have learned. It's very important for you, too, that you trust your instincts and your intuition. One of the cautions for you is that you need to be careful if you don't trust your intuition, that you may ask a question, discern an answer, and then question the answer. And in essence, you end up like the dog chasing its tail. You never, ever land on an answer. So you need to learn to trust your instincts, trust your feelings. I advise this to all people. Rather than ask yourself, what do I think about this, ask yourself, how do I feel about it? Because it'll put you closer to your truth.
I do that, and someone told me today that it's kind of funny because they just told me today that I am considered a seeker.
Right. Well, I'm not surprised. Now you have a one challenge or a one lifetime challenge. So your biggest challenge in life is to learn to stand on your own 2 feet, to truly be the strong version of yourself that you can and should be. You're currently in a 7 personal year. Personal years go birthday to birthday. They don't follow the calendar year, they're birthday to birthday. So you are currently in a 7 personal year, the 7th year of a current 9-year cycle. So this is a year for you to really kind of step into that energy of your life path. And also we just entered a 7 universal year on January 1st. So the energy of the universal year will very much reinforce the energy of your birth path throughout the year.
Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense, too.
Yeah.
Because I'm on a journey as we speak.
Okay. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lorraine, thank you so much for calling.
Have a blessed evening. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome, dear. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
It's amazing.
So, Michael, is there anything about the vibrational energies in, the most commonly assigned names, like Joe, John, Robert, Michael? Is there anything to it that there are more and more people that have common names that maybe they're being chosen because of the vibrational energies?
Yeah, so I was beginning to do a study because I had a curiosity about something to see, because obviously there's the top 10 names every year, as you just alluded to, and
right.
And some of those names, Michael being one of them, it was in the top 10 for a long, long time. Now, if you do the numerology of Michael, if you add all of the letters in Michael straight across, which is not the way you do a numerology calculation unless you're using another system, if you total all the letters in Michael, it's a 33. 33 is a master healer. It's a Christ consciousness, spiritual leader, person who can have great impact. But to do the numerology of Michael, it's a 6 soul urge, which comes out of the vowels, a 9 image, which comes out of the consonants, and the expression, which is the total of the letters in the name, is 6. So it's a 696. So there is a healing energy and a healing quality about Michael's. So yes, there is an energy attached to that. And again, one of the things I was looking into is in the 20th century, we had 22 universal years. The universal year is determined by the year, obviously. So like 2014, 2 plus 0 plus 1 plus 4 is a 7. So we're currently in a 7 universal year. Right. Well, in the 20th century, the years 1939, 48, 57, 66, 75, and 84 were all 22s. So in 7 years throughout the 20th century, the driving energy of the people entering the plane at that time was a 22. A 22 is a master builder. A 22 is very much a big picture, big organization individual who is here to do big things and grand things that help the greater good. And if you look at the history of the world in those years, 1939, the beginning of the world was beginning to change. 1948, we entered the atomic age. 57, we entered the space age. 66, we ended up with all that social change and social upheaval and that great cultural shift. 75, the world changed again economically because of the situation with oil and things. 84, the world changed again. Politically and in other facets, it was really the real dawn of the computer age. 93, the internet really started to take hold, and again, if you go back and just look at the history, you'll see that each one of those years there was significant things in the world that created a shift. Now, what's interesting is we will not have another 22 universal year. There's no one on this planet today alive who will see another 22 universal year.
Wow.
So to me, they were portal years. So if you were born in one of those 7 years, it was a portal year, and you came in kind of at a different vibration. And your year of birth covers the final cycle of your numerology chart. So it can be anywhere from the age of 55 on, depending on what your life path is. And so all those people, say, born in 1948 or 1957, when they all reach that age where they're entering their final cycle, that 22 energy becomes an overriding influence in their life. So it's in those periods of times that greater change can be brought about.
So then could you say that there's any significance, since you pretty much started doing numerology in 84, was the 22 sort of the fuel in you?
Well, let me see. It's interesting because when I was first introduced in 1984, it was in the month of April. So I was in my 5 personal year. And a 5 personal year is a year of change. So, yes, it was significant, not so much that it was 1984, but the fact that it was, for me, it was a year of change that I encountered and was exposed to something that did change the course of my life. Not immediately, but it was certainly, from that point forward, I worked towards being able to be a full-time numerologist. So.
Okay.
Okay, so John, what I want to ask you, I mean, this is all so fascinating to me. Have you ever done any readings on famous people? I mean, taking into account their name, I know a lot of them may have changed their name, but even like the birth date. I mean, I think I'm more particularly interested in like politics, politicians. I mean, is it possible to take their birth dates and just kind of get a feel as to who these people are?
Yes, without a doubt. In fact, in my book, You Know Your Name, Look Up Your Numbers, my sample chart is Barack Obama. And I didn't use him because of any political agenda one way or the other. I used him as an example because he's a significant person in the world. He was a breakthrough individual in this country, and he's a significant character in the world. So take the politics out of it, take all any prejudgment anyone may have about him, good, bad, or indifferent, and read about him as the individual. You'll see that this is a very idealistic individual who really and truly wants the best for everyone. Actually, I just wrote an essay which is posted on the blog on my website, and it's also online in Conscious Life News. I did a numerological profile for the illustrious governor of my home state of New Jersey, Chris Christie. And I didn't write it from any perspective of political agenda. I laid it out. This is who this man is. You can make your own decision based upon that writing as to whether or not you feel he's guilty or not guilty, or whether he's capable or incapable of doing what was done. My sense is you will draw the conclusion that the image issues he has are very much a real part of who he is. I wrote an essay after the last presidential election explaining why Barack Obama won. I've written essays on the kid who shot up the movie theater in Colorado and of the young kid who shot up the school in Connecticut. And the Connecticut story is very interesting because the shooter there had master numbers, and the town of Newtown is all master numbers, which says to me that situation there, take out the horror and the immediacy of the human situation, it was a teaching moment. Now, I'm not sure we've learned the lesson, but it was certainly a location that had great vibrational energy for teaching. And the young man who did the shooting had a purpose in life. I've done essays on the Trayvon Martin thing. I did an essay on Trayvon Martin. I did an essay on George Zimmerman. There was almost a karmic connection between those two that, as horrific as that situation was, again, a lesson to be learned. And those essays, the Martin and Zimmerman essays, can be found on Bella Spree magazine online. But yeah, anytime, one of the, I want to call it a downfall of knowing and doing numerology is it's virtually impossible for me to see a name without dissecting it. I'm an avid reader, and I read a book, and I will and I'll do the chart for the main character to make sure that he's actually who he's depicted to be. And you mentioned Hollywood, and Hollywood's a perfect example of the downside of name changes. Because Hollywood is a town that is filled with people who not necessarily use their real name. Right. And they're pretending to be someone else, and their job is to be someone else. And, Hollywood is riddled with multiple marriages and addiction issues, substance abuse issues. There's all kinds of aberrant behavior out there, and I attribute a lot of it to the fact that you have so many people who are pretending to be someone else.
Okay. So, Michael, that kind of answer. I did have another question, because listening to you talk about, how we can maybe figure out who a person is. I mean, would this be something that maybe employers might put into play when interviewing potential candidates?
I used to do it all the time. I used to be in the restaurant business. And when I hired someone, I made sure I got their full name and their birth date, because I wanted to know what I was getting into. I would look. There's a number that represents responsibility and hard work, and there's a number that if you don't have that number, then you may not be so responsible. So, yes, to me, it's a great tool to be used in anything. Going back to the education thing, I find it kind of curious that school systems many times use the Myers-Briggs test. That's that where you get that four-letter personality description.
Right.
So it gives you a description, but it doesn't give you the reason behind it. Numerology not only defines it, but it gives you the reason behind the definition.
Okay. Interesting. Well, Michael, are you ready to take another caller?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to area code 304. Hi, you're on the air with Michael, Anthony, and Lucy. Who is this?
Hello, Lucy. This is Robert.
Hi, Robert.
How you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you for calling.
How are you doing, Michael?
Very well, Robert. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, as always.
Great. So what's your birth date?
It is 5/7/70.
Okay. Okay, so you have a 2 life path, but it's a 20/2. So a 2 life path shows you to be the great partner. You are where one is the beginner, one is the initiator. One won't get a lot done unless there's a 2 in the picture, because a 2 is a person who will take that one's ideas and get them going. You are very much a person who is a mediator. You have great ability to see and understand both sides of a story. You're very kind of fair and balanced in your assessment of things. The fact that your life path is a 20/2. Now, 0 isn't a number in numerology, but what it does represent is the concept of God or spirit or universe, whatever you want to call it, the big deal. So for you, the 20/2 shows that this is a transitional lifetime for you in the realm of partnership.
Interesting.
This is a lifetime where you may be faced with a great many choices, because the duality of the 2. So you may be consistently in situations where you have to make a choice between one thing or another. But this is all part of your growth as a soul level and as a human being. You have a 2 challenge in your first position. So when you were young, you might have been a little impatient. Perhaps you needed to learn a little bit of sensitivity and tolerance for others. Chances are very good, too, that you may have been were you a very shy child?
Believe it or not, and if you ask anybody that knows me now, they would not have believed it, yes.
Yeah, people don't believe that I'm shy either. So, because you have 2 2s in the spelling of just your first name. Couple that with the 2 life path and the fact that you have a 2 challenge in the first position. So, yeah, they probably, and you may still struggle with it, took you a long time to kind of come out of your shell.
Yes, it did.
And couple that with the fact that you have a 3 lifetime challenge, and the 3 lifetime challenge is the challenge of self-esteem and self-expression. Your biggest challenge in life was to find your voice. And if you haven't found it yet, I encourage you to continue looking for it until you do. So that issue of self-esteem, self-expression, coupled with a great deal of shyness, may have made you extremely withdrawn. And, people may have thought that, what's wrong with little Robert? He's, not participating. He's not talking. He's kind of standing over in the corner by himself. But again, there's something. It was a lesson you needed to learn. So my wish for you is certainly that you have learned it and overcome it. And the thing with the challenges is much havoc as they can wreak in your life. The mantra for the challenges is this: that once you learn and understand what it is, and you work to overcome it, you then become it. So what starts out as a liability ends up being an asset.
That's quite impressive.
Okay,
quite impressive.
Okay,
if I could ask a question, interested in, I heard we were talking earlier, and I was just a touch late getting on because of the hours I work, so I apologize for that. But I heard you mention before about how the changing of a name can have a changing of influence. How do you see that working into the life of somebody that, say, is adopted or brought into a family and has their name changed at a very young age? Does that actually affect the difference that the path of their life would take?
Yes. Well, it won't change the path of their life because their birth date doesn't change, but it will change who they are. And I've done readings for adopted people who were adopted, and most of them, almost to a person, all exhibited the same thing, and that was great unsettledness and great confusion over their own identity.
That's interesting. Because
what happens is, because if you're an individual who was born to someone and adopted, and if you were born and given a name and then adopted and that name changed, then all of a sudden you're dealing with that dual identity, which would certainly have created conflict for you throughout your life.
Fantastic. That is a very, very excellent. I've got to say I'm thoroughly enjoying this.
Well, thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, and just one more thing, Robert. You're currently in a 9 personal year. Again,
okay.
The personal years go birthday to birthday. So you are currently in the final year of your current 9-year cycle. And in a 9-year, it is important, very, very important for you to take an inventory of your life and to rid yourself of the people, things, situations in your life that do not serve you. And the caution here is very strong that if you do not rid yourself of those things and you carry them forward into your next cycle, which begins at your birthday, those conditions will exacerbate. So if you think they're bad now, just wait a few months.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you have another 4 months here to really kind of, again, do that inventory and rid yourself of those things that do not serve you, because you need to clean the slate so that when you enter your next 9-year cycle, you can write a new game plan.
Okay, it sounds fantastic. I'm definitely going to be reading up more and learning a little more about numerology, especially the sources you have. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Well, I highly recommend you buy my book. My book is an introduction to numerology. It's set up in a textbook fashion. It's concise. It's got a lot of information. One of the things my book includes also is foreign language alphabets, because if someone was born in Mexico, their birth certificate was written in Spanish. It was not written in English. And to do an English English interpretation of a Spanish name would give you incorrect information. So one of the things I've included is different foreign language alphabets in the appendix. And you can get my book through my website. It's $17.95. What you'll get is a signed copy of the book. You will get a 1-hour DVD of a TV interview I did a couple of years ago in which I verbally explain numerology, and I will do your chart calculation for you also.
Fantastic. Listen, I
That's
really
great.
appreciate the time. And, of course, Anthony and Lucy, it's always a pleasure to get to spend some time with you guys.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thanks.
Thank you, Robert.
Have a great day, guys.
Good night.
Well, Michael, why do you mentioned this earlier in the interview, why do you think people still don't fully understand numerology?
Because it's never been mainstreamed.
It's never been
astrology. Well, see, astrology, there very few people don't know about astrology because it's in it's virtually in every newspaper.
Right.
And, you know, I have a great deal of respect for astrology. I have some very good friends who are very, very talented astrologers. But there was that part of astrology that lost some integrity when it became a kind of a column in a newspaper. Because if you bought 6 newspapers and read your horoscope, I guarantee you no 2 of them are going to tell you the same thing. And numerology has never been able to be mainstream that way. Believe me, I was thinking about in the 90s of writing a numerology column, but I could never come up with a format that wouldn't have been somewhat inherently repetitive after a while. So it's never been mainstream. And because of that, the public awareness of it is minimal. I can honestly say that if I took the audiences from every lecture I've ever given over the last 20 years, collectively, 85 to 90% of those people that I've spoken to had no idea what numerology was. And that's why it's my goal is to get it introduced here somehow.
Well, you know, as you were talking, you know, you see astrology in newspapers, online all the time. And it's basically because people are born within a certain, you know, sign. And it does lend itself to be more mainstream than a lot of other gifts that people have, such as yourself. But I think maybe, and you know, maybe this could be something that could be branched out. And Michael, maybe you can take this on and do this. You know, in newspapers or in print or online, maybe it would be more beneficial if, obviously not the birth date, but maybe giving a numerology report on a name and having that printed and published. And so maybe every week is a new different name. I think maybe the mainstream may catch on a lot better or a lot quicker, and more interest will be had within numerology, don't you think?
Yes and no. I do agree, and again, I do write whenever possible essays on people in the news to give people an idea. But the only thing is, without an explanation, you're gonna think I'm talking gibberish. Because obviously, when I do a chart, I have to refer to, as I said earlier, the soul urge, the expression. So all of those terms need to be at least defined, which probably could be defined as a small box at the bottom of the column. But believe me, Anthony, I have looked for angles many different ways. Now, I do write a column that's in 3 different online publications. And what I do is I take a different topic every month and write an article about it. The January edition I just wrote was explaining the forecast for 2014, what the 7 universal year means to the world and to people. And I write a monthly forecast, and I also answer readers' questions and stuff. So I'm very flexible in my writing of the column and the information because I'm doing my best to get a lot of information out there to people to again raise the public awareness of it. And that's when go on. I'm sorry.
And that's within Bellspree magazine, Bellspree.com?
Yeah. I'm in Bellspree magazine. I'm in the Holistic Globe magazine and another online publication called pencilstubs.com. Okay. All right, great. I mean, I'm kind of interested in I don't know if you're willing to do it, but I've never had a numerology report done. I mean, I've done many research on numerology, on astrology. I'm a history buff. I'd love to talk about the paranormal, obviously, and paranormal topics and numerology and astrology and psychics usually tend to fall into that category. But I've never had a numerology report done on me, and I'm just curious if there's anything that you can tell me that may be different than what I've had within a psychic reading per se. Well, psychic kind of reads your energy. And again, I know a lot of very, very good psychics, and but there's also a lot of charlatans out there, obviously. But, there is an element of a psychic reading your energy. And you could, I believe that you could go to the same psychic week in and week out, ask the same question every week, and you could conceivably get a different answer every week, depending on where you are in your energy with the particular situation that you're asking about. I work, again, I don't tell fortunes. I work to give you as much information about you as I possibly can. And a part of all of my readings is I cover the current year that you're in. So I tell you what your personal year is and what you can look forward to, what may be in store for you through the spelling of your name and whatnot. A numerology reading, a good numerology reading should reinforce any other good information you've ever gotten. But it may also give you a depth of insight and information that you may not have previously received.
Right, because I think with numerology, you're pretty much understanding your identity, where you don't get that from anywhere else. Numerology is basically letting you know who you are and where you came from, and giving you that identity and clarifying your soul, if I may say so, and helping you to understand where you don't get that with other topics or other fields. I'm sorry.
No, although astrology can. In fact, one of the things I am working on, I'm friends with an astrologer by the name of Chris Flisher. Okay. And Chris is a very gifted astrologer. And we have talked about on numerous occasions, and one of these days, right now we just have a geographic thing because he's up in Boston, I'm at the Jersey Shore. But one of the things we have discussed on numerous occasions is doing a joint lecture. Because astrology is also based in numbers. All those angles and stuff, it's all numbers. Yeah. And I've done Chris's radio program numerous times, and we take callers, and I'll answer the caller and give them the information, and then Chris will always chime in and say, and in your chart, that is defined by this particular planetary alignment or angle or whatever the case may be. And we have discovered through numerous radio interviews that we provide similar information, although we come at it from two different modalities. So again, what we want to do is a lecture series where we go out and whoever goes first explains astrology or numerology. We talk about it. We discuss it. We will have a random person chosen from the audience. And while I'm on stage, Chris will be backstage doing their chart. And when he's on stage, I will be backstage doing the chart. And then we will come out and share the information that we both gathered from our different modalities for the same person. And for the most part, it will be in sync across the board.
That's amazing.
Interesting. Well, Michael, we have another caller, and I believe this will be our last caller. This is area code 215.
Philadelphia.
Hello? Hi. Hi. You're on the air with Michael, Anthony, and Lucy. Who is this?
Hi, this is Phyllis.
Hello, Phyllis.
Hi, Phyllis.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. And yourself?
Good. And my birthday is August 1st, 1956.
Okay. Okay, you have a 3-life path. So 3 in numerology is a very creative energy. 3 is about words written or spoken. It's a representation of creative talent, creative ability. 3s many times are entertainers or writers or teachers. There's also a healing energy attached to it. So anything in that realm, what you would do well with. You probably have, I'm assuming you do have some creative ability, some creative talent. I certainly encourage you to use that talent, to develop it. And whatever it may be, it doesn't necessarily need to be for public consumption, but for your own self-satisfaction, it's important for you to learn to express yourself and do something with that expression. Now, did you come out of a home where there were some addictions?
Yeah, you might say that. Yes.
Yeah, I am saying it because you have a 7 challenge in the first position. So that's usually a very strong indication that in the family of origin there was some addiction problems, alcohol, drugs, gambling, whatever the case may be. And the cautionary for you would be very strong for you that you avoided that behavior because it could have been a real problem for you, especially since you have a 5 lifetime challenge. So the 5 lifetime challenge one of the things that 5 also represents is the human condition. It's the 5 senses. When it shows up as a challenge, one of the things that it can indicate is a tendency to overindulge in pleasures of the senses. So it's very important for you, Phyllis, that in times where you're feeling upset or things aren't going right, that you do not lose yourself in some sort of addiction. It could be drinking, it could be drugs, it could be promiscuity, it could be eating, it could be anything that somewhat has attached to some sensual pleasure. So it's very, very important for you to know that. And the key thing with the 5 challenge is 2 words, balance and focus. 5 is the middle number between 1 and 9, so it's kind of got a fulcrum energy to it, and it's a number that can easily get out of balance. And I'd have to see your whole chart to see how much other 5 energy you may have. But a 5 challenge is it's one of the ways. A 5 challenge is one of the things I use to identify ADD in people. Because there is a tendency at times to be consumed by a lot of different stuff simultaneously or spontaneously. And there's also a tendency at times to not finish what is begun because the next bright, shiny object catches your attention and you move on without finishing things. So it's important that you learn the fine art of follow through, that you do finish what you begin, and really learn to focus your talents and your energy so you can bring things to completion. Okay? You are currently in a 6 personal year. Again, we'll go to your birthday. A 6 personal year, the energy of your life for the year will revolve more around home and family and service to others. And there's also a strong possibility that perhaps you may have been already, or you may end up being in a situation where you are in a caretaking position for someone. So if that, in fact, is the case, do it with open arms and an open heart and fulfill your obligation and your responsibility, and everything will be fine.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Did it make sense to you?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
I understood what you were talking about. And
okay.
I kind of knew that my number was 3 in the beginning anyway, so that was kind of cool.
Very good. Well, the last portion of your life, which would be after the age of 60, you'll be under the influence of the 3. So the last portion of your life from your 60th birthday on can be a much more social period for you. Can be a very active period for you, perhaps group activities, getting involved with people, and also, again, a great overriding energy of creativity and expression.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Phyllis,
All right,
for calling.
Thank you, guys. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Well, Michael, this has been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And this has been an amazing experience. So you've touched on it briefly, but can you tell our listeners again where they can go to find out more about you, magazine, schedule, how can they schedule a more in-depth reading with you?
Sure. My website is michaeljohnfierro.com. On there's information about me. You can book a reading through the website. You can purchase my book through the website, and as I said earlier, the book is $17.95. The shipping handling is free, and you do get a DVD, and I do the chart calculations, signed copy of the book. Readings can be 15 minutes for one question, a half hour, an hour. Again, they're all booked through the website. And I'm available for private and corporate events, lectures, classes, whatever the case may be. And if you purchase my book, one of the great things about numerology is it is not extremely difficult to learn. If you bought my book and did a chart for yourself or someone significant in your life, just by doing the chart and then going through and reading each particular definition for each particular number, you would find out how accurate it is. Now, granted, I've got 30 years, and I can see connections and stuff that the novice may not necessarily pick up on, but there is still enough information in my book to take the individual who knows nothing about numerology and give them some basic knowledge and understanding of it, which would enable them, again, to do charts for themselves or their family, whatever the case may be. It's a great tool to have if you're a parent. And one of the things I offer on the website, because all my readings are done over the phone, and the client gets an MP3 file of the session. But I also offer written reports for relationship compatibility, because if you're dating someone and I take your chart and his chart, the difference between all of the numbers will be the issues that you will fight about. I offer also written reports on just the challenges, and I also offer a written report for the newborn baby or the child, because if you're a new parent, it would behoove you greatly to have that understanding of your child's strong points, weak points, and where you could really focus your parental energy in creating a fully actualized human being.
That's actually a great gift to give somebody, for their newborn.
Mm-hmm.
That is.
So
that's great.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you. Everyone, please check out Michael John Fierro at michaeljohnfierro.com. Check out his book, You Know Your Name. Now look up your number at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and at his website.
Well, great. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael, so much for coming on. Hello?
My absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed myself, and thanks for having me. And anytime you want to do it again, just let me know.
Absolutely. Great to have you on.
We certainly will.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for everyone else.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All righty. Bye-bye. So, Lucia.
I don't know who I am.
Your name, Lucia Bonilla, is that right?
Uh-huh. Yes.
You sound like you were made to be a baseball player.
Now, see, this is part of the reason why I changed it, because it rhymed.
It's actually a nice name.
I guess.
Have you ever thought about changing it back?
Maybe I've had it maybe once in a while. I've thought about changing it back to Lucia, but I'm Lucy. I mean, as far as identity goes, I mean, I've been Lucy for so long. I mean, that's who I identify with. I mean, it would be interesting to see. I don't know. It's hard to say. It really is hard to say, because I know my name on my birth certificate is Lucia, but for some reason I've never felt a connection with that name.
It is on your birth certificate, right? You never had anything legally changed, right? Other than your married
name.
Never.
Never. I just dropped the A, simply. That's all I did. I never legally changed it or anything like that. So I guess in essence I still am Lucia.
Right. So, is it possible not to, obviously I'm not, what's on your driver's license? Is it Lucy?
It's Lucy, Luci.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know. I was just thinking about, on written documents, if anything that you have to sign, or if you're just, filling out a form in a doctor's office, what could the harm be in putting Lucia on there?
I don't know. I guess I can try it.
I don't know, because I'm just really thinking about it, because, what Michael was talking about really is making sense, and it's sort of resonating in me about how your name is pretty much defining who you are, your identity. And, I know you very well. Maybe not very well, but I know you pretty good as far as, other people. And so I know the struggles and triumphs and challenges and sometimes chaos that you've had in your life, and to me that's a simple fix to do if that's what you want to really do, and or just a test to see if your universe changes by one simple flick of the pen and just adding an A at the end of your name. I don't know, that would interest me. I don't know if it really interests you to do that.
Well, now that, I mean, you know, after talking to Michael, I mean, it's piquing my interest. So I don't know, maybe I'll do a test and I'll just start putting the A back in to see what it is. But again, like I said, I mean, in my soul, I identify with Lucy. I think I've always identified with Lucy. Now, in my family, on the Mexican side, we have three. We have Luz, L-U-Z. We have a Luz. We have a Lucia. We have there's another. I don't know if it's. I think we have two Lucias. And then where I used to work, I had one woman that would always call me Luzmelia. But I've always identified with Lucy. You know, I don't know, but it's interesting.
But Luzmelia is more of a, I don't know the right terminology for it, but, you know, it's more of a cultural slang or, you know, within a family tradition to call somebody, you know, like even, you know, like there's a phrase, and you probably know it, and I'm going to say it wrong now, but there's somebody, usually you'll call a child or something little Peter or little, you know, or whoever.
Like a nickname.
Right. There's always that little finesse to a name that people put on there. It's a little cutesy. It doesn't, I mean, to me, it's not changing, I don't know, it's not changing who they are. I think it's just putting a connotation to it. But if somebody then grows up and continues to use that name, they are then identifying themselves with it and taking on that persona and recreating their identity in a way, I'm assuming. And, you know, maybe that's what you're doing. I don't know, maybe you're attracting, maybe you were attracted to the life that you're living now, and that's why you feel a closeness to the name?
I don't know. But one thing, and you know what, Michael, if you're still in the chat room, I was wondering, maybe I should go, one thing that I'm thinking, like, how about maybe I'll try, you know, using both last names, you know, the Bonilla and the Liebfried. I don't know. It's kind of, I know it would freak a lot of people out if all of a sudden I show up at work and all of a sudden it's Lucia Bonilla where it was Lucy Liebfried the day before. Yeah.
Do you think your son will have a fit?
I don't think so. I don't think so at this point. I think the time there has come to separate the two because he's on his own path now, and maybe it would help him to move on to his own path if I kind of like separate. Maybe it's part of cutting the cords.
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting, but I think, okay, so maybe I think I will try it for a little bit and let's see what happens.
I don't know. I just think, you know, even if anything, it's starting with your first name and trying to see if by writing it down on things or I don't know legally if it makes any difference if you sign Lucia, say, like on your rent check or something, you know? Does it make it...
No, it won't make a difference.
Okay. So,
I don't think it won't make a difference because it's never been legally changed.
Right. So maybe, you know, and I'm not forcing you at all to do this, but it could be something that you just try out and test and see if maybe vibrationally you feel changes coming on. You feel as though that, you know, things may be changing, and maybe you should have a numerology report done on Lucia Bonilla and actually see who you really are. You know, I think that could be pretty interesting to find out who that person really is, and maybe you come to find that you may identify more with that than you do with your current.
Okay.
I don't know. Am I picking you off right now?
No. I mean, it's. I'm very intrigued with it. There's a sense of like maybe a little bit of excitement, maybe just to see what will happen, and then maybe I'll finally figure out who I really am.
And, it's funny because, as I mentioned to Michael before, that, legally my name is Anthony. That's what it is on my birth certificate. My bank accounts, everything is Anthony. But my family, most of my family and many of my close friends call me Tony, and that's what it's been like since childhood. I've never come to grips with Tony. I don't know why, but I always have a hard time with that name. I don't mind it. I don't mind people calling me that name. I'm not offended in any way at all. But I prefer to announce myself as Anthony, and it sort of subconsciously happens to me sometimes where, for instance, and I'll give you an example. I was over a friend's house one time many years ago, and, they all called me Tony. I had grew up with them since I was 8 years old, for such a long time. And when I had to actually, at their house, actually call and I don't know what it was. I think it may have been something about my car insurance or something like that. I had a call up, and I was over their house while I was doing it. And as soon as the person on the other end of the phone asked me what the name was, I said Anthony, and they turned around and it was almost like a giggling fest. Everybody was laughing, and they just were not used to somebody or even me referring to myself as Anthony. And it kind of confused me. It kind of not upset me. I wouldn't say that, but it got me a little perturbed as to why they would be laughing at that. And I never understood that fact, but I've always kept it as Anthony with anything that I did, obviously legally, or anything business-like. I mean, in work, it's Anthony. Nobody really calls me Tony. And, you don't even call me Tony. I don't know.
No, because from day one, you have been Anthony to me. It's like when I met you, that's who you are. And I've never,
right.
When I'm around your family, I hear them call you Tony. And, like maybe when I talk to them, I'll say, Tony. But to me, you are Anthony. You've always been Anthony. You're always going to be Anthony. It's just that name resonates with me more than Tony was. You're not Tony. You're Anthony.
Right, and I think what was driving me all this while, because I could have easily then changed or been more comfortable with Tony if it wasn't for my parents. My dad, till this day, will still call me Anthony. He refuses to say Tony, and I don't know why, but maybe subconsciously I've always respected that he's always admired that name. Obviously, he's the one that wanted to name me that. Or as Michael would say, maybe it was me, pre-birth, that wanted that name. But I guess because he has always done it, and I've always heard it come from him, I've never deviated from it, and I've always, I guess, I don't know. And then in another term, maybe it's sort of like sticking up for that name. I've always done it that way, and very few people nowadays call me Tony, and I guess because I've never given into it. And I never wanted that change. Even though, again, to me, it's really, personally, there's nothing wrong with calling me Tony. I'd never equated myself to being Tony.
I can't call you Tony. It's like a different person. You're Anthony.
I don't know why. When somebody calls me Tony, other than, and the only one that can get away with it, actually, that I don't have a problem with at all, is my sister. She will call me Tony, and as you have heard many, many times, if she's calling me from, like another floor or from down the street, she'll say Tone, and it's even shortening Tony. So, at some point probably in my life, I'll just be T in her eyes, and she just keeps shortening it and shortening it. I just think it's cute. She's my younger sister, so, she's allowed to call me that. But, I don't find it friendly enough when other people do that to me. So I've just never given into it. And so maybe, with your story, everybody's always called you Lucy. I guess, maybe it was the attraction that people recognized you, and that's what attracted you to keeping the name Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm reading you.
But it is interesting, and I want to. I guess maybe I'll try it. I'll try it. I'll see. But again, with you, you've always been Anthony to me. You're always going to be Anthony, and I just cannot call you Tony. You are not Tony.
Yeah, and Michael is in chat, and he just wrote, Anthony, perhaps it's because your soul is strong enough in your life that you have a stronger connection to who you truly are. I think I do. I think I have a connection to who I really am, and who I was meant to be, or what I'm all about. I think I have that strong connection to who I am. I've never had any sort of doubt, but maybe that's maybe that's the reason why I've always kept it. I don't know. I'm rambling, Lucy.
Okay,
cut me off.
One thing I do want to mention, because Michael mentioned it, with the refugees, okay, when my father came over here from Mexico, I mean, even the Bonilla is not correct. My father's name when he came over here was Jesse Blanco Bonilla, and in Mexico, you take the mother's last name and they put it on the end. But in essence, his name, the last name, should be Blanco. So my last name should not be Bonilla, because when he came over here, they put it on the paperwork wrong. They reversed it. So in essence, he became Jesse Bonilla. And so in actuality, my name should be Lucia Blanco. So maybe that's why I don't feel that much of a connection to the Bonilla.
You don't know who you really are
I'm
now.
Good with. I don't know who I am.
I don't even know who you are anymore.
But I think I know who I am. I just, like I said, I don't have a problem with the Lucia. In fact, I'm. The more I think about it, the more I like it. But it's the Bonilla. I for some reason, I don't connect with that, and I don't know why. But that's what's on my birth certificate.
Maybe that's a discussion that you have privately, in regards to why you don't connect to that last name. But I hear you. My on my mother's side, grandparents, when they came to this country, and I'm half Polish and half Italian, and so the last name that they came over with was Lesnarowitz. And when they came to the country, they shortened it, and it went to Lesnar. And I never knew that until my 20s, when I heard that in a conversation at a family gathering. And so, who knows, even Lesnarowitz could have been shortened from somewhere else, And who's to say who we really are if we don't know the true history of our family lineage,
Mhm. Okay,
I don't know, maybe that's getting a little too deep.
Well, so actually my name is Lucia Bonilla.
Say that again?
Lucia Bonilla. That's my name.
Well, that is your name.
Yeah, but I've never used it.
You're a mess.
This is so confusing. I know. I'm so confused now.
But I really loved the interview. I loved having Michael on the show. I actually went to check out some of the reviews of his book, and they were rave reviews all around. A lot of folks were saying that it was a pretty simple book to read, straightforward, and not difficult, as Michael was saying before, not difficult to understand at all. So, I do suggest, if anybody really is interested in numerology and understanding it, and like Michael said, if you can learn how to do it for yourself, you can have the art of understanding numerology, knowing what it's all about, and giving yourself a reading or others a reading based upon the knowledge that's within his book, how cleanly and how easily that he lays it out for everyone. So, check out his book and go to his website, Michael John Fierro. That's Michael John Fierro.com. and you can go from there pretty much. He's also on Facebook under his name, and check it out. And if you don't want to get his book, maybe get a chart done from him, and have him do all the work for you.
And, of course, he is a member of the Bellspree Diamond Psychics and Readers, and I'm very proud to call him one of my colleagues because I'm one of them, too.
Yes, you are part of that group, that wonderful group. And we had Belle Salisbury on last week, and she was, she completely blew my mind. It was amazing doing those past life readings, and tonight doing numerology with John Fierro. I'm really, Lucy, I'm really enjoying the month of January, and I'm so glad that we did this sort of celebration to psychics and advisors and healers for the month of January. It really is, an uplifting way to start the new year, and to, everybody wants to do these resolutions and change their looks, or change their weight, or, change their attitude. What about changing your life? What about making the changes that really impact you, not just now, but also impact you in years to come? I mean, it's amazing what, these 4 or 5 weeks are actually going to do, not just for you and I, Lucy, but for the many listeners that we have for each and every show, what impact that's going to have. I'm so curious to find out, at the end of this year, the folks who have listened to our particular episodes during this month of January, who may have taken some of the advice, maybe it's some of the callers, or if it's just the listeners who tuned in, maybe something has sparked within them. And I'd love to maybe revisit this at the end of 2014 and see if there was any changes or any impacts that were made on their lives. And I don't know, I feel as though, we may get some really good goosebumps during that show that may reveal a whole lot.
You have to get out of my head, because that's exactly what I was thinking, like maybe an end-of-year revisit to the readings that we've done during this month. And I have to say, this month so far has been so much fun. I mean, I know it's a great idea, and I'm really glad that we're highlighting not just, the readings. I mean, we've touched on different aspects of psychic ability and psychic readings and mediumship, and we're not done yet. I mean, we still have 2 weeks in this month, and, the best is still yet to come. I mean, this was such an amazing idea, and I'm so glad that we did it. I really am, because it really, honestly, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, just the things that I've learned in the last couple of weeks. I don't want to say learned. The things that have been confirmed for me, the things that I've known but have gotten confirmation on, has been simply amazing, and tonight was no different. I mean, Michael was amazing, and I really, really want to encourage our listeners. You've got to, reach out to Michael, get a reading done, and find out who you are. I think I know I still have to figure out who I am.
Yeah, I need to figure out who you are. But,
which
Lucy,
one of my personalities?
Yeah, exactly. I do, though. I want to share this with everyone, because I've noticed this difference, and I've shared it with you, Lucy. I think it was earlier this week, maybe, about as we started to do these shows in the very beginning of January. Like I said, this is our 3rd show in honoring and celebrating psychics and advisors and intuitives and healers that. I have noticed, and also, too, how Lucy and we both did the burning bowl ceremony, that, I've noticed a huge difference in my attitude as far as consciously knowing the things that I need to change, and consciously knowing, to start removing a lot of the negative around me, and helping to make a little bit more positive in my life, in my actions, in what I do. And, I've started to do a lot of that stuff as far as materialistic things. And so I've started to make changes in my home. I told you earlier, I just retiled my hallway and kitchen last weekend. because I could not stand the tile that was there before. It was just dark and gloomy and horrible, and it was something that was always nagging at me for so many years. And so I said, you know what, that's it. I'm going to make this change and do it. And I did it. And I did it in one weekend, believe it or not, and I made that change, and I feel so much better now. I feel more comfortable coming home and not seeing that horrible floor anymore. Now I'm seeing this, this really great tan marble tile. And so, I'm starting to then build, confidence in me and build the happiness around me. I'm starting to change things as far as pictures and, things that have naturally been there for so long that I never really thought about. I'm starting to notice more and, sort of making a judgment call as to whether or not it's benefiting me. And if it isn't, I'm removing it. And, I'm replacing it with something that actually will help me, think clearer or just change my attitude and change who I am into a better place or a happier place. And so I'm hoping that people who are listening or who have sort of taken some of the advice, like we've told people in the very beginning, try the burning bowl ceremony. It may sound kooky, but, if it works, it's great. Or, listening in on these shows that we've had the past 3 weeks, and also encouraging people to call in and get some readings. Maybe this will start to spark the change, because I know for me, for just myself, I know it's actually making a change for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, the burning bowl ceremony was perfect. I think it was a good, because I'm a big one about releasing. I'm a big supporter of releasing what is negative, be it people, be it ideas, be it everything around you. And I think for you to bring that burning bowl ceremony, I had heard about it before, but never ever did it before. And I think just the actual movement of doing it, the actual act of doing it was perfect. It was just great. And for once I'm in January, and even with all this crazy weather and everything like that, sure, it's miserable, but I'm good. I'm actually good. I can feel the changes that are happening, not only just spiritually, but physically. It's amazing. And I said this before. I've had a great feeling about 2014. It was almost like releasing 2013 and everything that was there. For me, it didn't start off well. 2013 was not a good year in the beginning. It got better as the year went on. But for me, coming into 2014, I've already gotten a feeling that this is going to be great. And I think the Burning Bowl ceremony was a great start, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go.
Well, that's great. I think we're all excited, and, hopefully next week everybody will be just as excited as tonight, and that's it. I think maybe I don't know if you had any last words before we moved on to the Fan of the Week.
No, I think we've covered it all. It was an amazing evening, and thank you so much, Michael. Thank you.
All right, so why don't we get on to the Fan of the Week?
Okay, let's go on to some business here. And this week, our Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week. We've always talked about how, our reach just amazes us, okay? Every week, just through YouTube and through Facebook and Twitter and all that, I am constantly amazed at the reach, the people that listen to us, and where they are. This week, our Paranormal Review Radio Fan of the Week comes to us, and I'm going to butcher this, all the way from Bohinj, Slovenia. It is Eric Okverk of Bohinj, Slovenia. He is a gamer who likes Medal of Honor. He likes the Need for Speed and Left 4 Dead. He likes Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, and he listens to Paranormal Review Radio. Eric actually has our promos posted in his pics on his Facebook page. So we want to thank you, Eric, for being a listener, for being a fan, and congratulations.
That's amazing. as Lucy said, it is amazing to see all of the analytics of, who listens, who visits our pages, who comments, and who shares our likes, and who are just, really good fans and friends of the show. And so it is amazing to see this, how we're reaching so many folks, not just across the country, but across the globe. So don't forget, if you want to be a Paranormal Review Radio fan of the week, just like us on Facebook. That's all you got to do, at Paranormal Review Radio.
Well, you know what? We all have names, okay? Some of us have changed them. Some of us have shortened them. We've added to them. But does it change who we really are? We all have a birthday, a day when we entered this plane of existence to complete a purpose. But do we always know why? No. But by learning what the numbers and the letters mean in what we call ourselves, and from the day we are born, we can empower ourselves to reach the heights that we were meant to. Are you still confused about your life? The answers you seek may be right there in your name. We want to thank Michael for joining us tonight. This was a real treat. So, as Anthony said, our Psychic Month series, it's rolling along. This week was fascinating and very educational, and each show has been amazing so far. We've gone to the connections from the other side, to our past, and now to the numbers in our lives. So how about we have some fun, okay? You may have seen a little show called The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Well, our next guest first appeared on that show before she had her own A&E show called Psychic Tia. A former police officer, Tia Bell is a psychic medium who's not quite like anyone else. She's full of life and attitude, and this amazing woman will be joining us next Friday night to give us a taste of what it's like to be psychic and from New Jersey. So get a glass of wine, fasten your seatbelts, because this one is going to be a lot of fun. Please do not miss this show. Thank you, everyone, for participating tonight. This was another great evening with friends. Thank you, Anthony, for another great show. I always know I can count on you. So, until next week, Parapeeps, keep your minds open and have a paranormal week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Paranormal Review Radio.